Hello everyone and welcome to Liam's Only 58 Board Games of All Time. We're into the top 10. This is it. This is my best 10 board games of all time out of the 58 I can put on this list. Let's get into it, okay? Just remember, these are the only 58 board games of all time. I'm not suggesting that these are the absolute best 10 games out there. They're the best 10 games that I've played, so let's get into it. Number 10 is Flamme Rouge. I'll be honest, I'm a cycling fan. I like watching the Tour de France and everything. So when I saw that there was a game about cycling, I looked it up. It looked fun. It had a good review on it. So I bought it. We played it. And yeah, our family really enjoys this game. You have a team of cyclists and they go around a modular track, so you can change the track to have different configurations. And you have a deck of cards for each cyclist. You have one cyclist that is a sprinter, so they have lots of high cards and lots of low cards, and only a couple of middle cards. So they can go fast, quickly, but not very often. And then you have the rouleur cyclist, who has lots of middle numbers, but no 9s or 2s. So they'll consistently go a good pace, but never get that big burst of speed that the sprinter has. And so the puzzle of the game or the strategy of the game is to use your two cyclists to work together to win, to beat the other cyclist. And you can only draw a couple cards at a time to pick from. Sometimes you'll want your 9 to come up and you don't quite get it. Sometimes you'll want a 5 to come up, but you only get 2s or a 9, and you're like, I don't really want either of those. So there is a little bit of randomness in there, but you also have mountains. So mountains, you'll only go a max of 5, even if you play a 9. You have downhill, you'll always go at least 5, even if you play a 2. So there's a little bit of strategy about when to play each card. And there's only just enough cards in your deck to just get over the line. So if you're leading a group, you get an exhaustion card. So if you just go all out and play your best cards as quick as you can, you'll probably tire out, and you'll only be able to play 2s in that at the very end of the game, and people come and overtake you. But if you're also too conservative, you'll be too far at the back, and you won't be able to catch up. You also draft, so if you end a turn exactly 2 spaces behind another rider, the one behind will draft and catch up. So you can make up free spaces that you haven't played a card for. So the strategy is to try and be as close as the front you can, that you're not getting these exhaustion cards, but also not too far back, because if you're too far back, it's hard to catch up, even with these free drafting spaces. So it's just a really fun game. Sometimes you don't know why you've won or lost, and I don't care. That it's fun. And you can, when we play, we normally do like 3 stages. And you tie them together. There's an app that you can use to calculate how far back in the general standings they are. The riders after each stage, and at the end you can have an overall winner. It's fun. It's by the same person that has designed Heat. So the Heat is a car version of this, pretty much, and this is the cyclist version. We don't have Heat, but we've got Flamme Rouge, and it's really good fun. My top 10 game is Flamme Rouge. Number 9 is Cosmic Encounter. I don't get to play it that often, but when I do, I absolutely love it. In Cosmic Encounter, you get to play a different alien each game, and they all have different powers, and your job is to colonize 5 planets on other people's territory. The first to colonize 5 planets on other people's territory wins. You use your unique powers to do that. You use attack cards, you battle, you defend, you make alliances, you betray each other. Is this game balanced? No, it's not. It's not balanced at all, but that's part of the fun. Part of the fun is how bonkers this game can be. Like, depending on what alien has got, depending on what aliens people have got, you can go and declare war on someone, and I'm going to try and land a colony on this planet. And then they reveal a just bonkers rule that they've got. And it may not be fair, but it's just fun. It's fun to laugh about the bonkers rules. There's tons of expansions for these, so there's hundreds and hundreds of aliens out there. And some of them are just ridiculous. And some of them are unfair, but it's fun. Cosmic Encounter, Don't play it often, but great time. Alright, my number 8 game of all time might cause some controversy. Am I going to be in trouble if I bring in a Risk game? My number 8 game of all time is Game of Thrones Risk, not normal Risk. If it was just normal Risk, it probably wouldn't be on here, or it wouldn't be this high up. But the Game of Thrones version of Risk means a lot to me and my friends. We picked this up in 2015. I think that's when this game came out. We picked this up. We'd never played normal Risk before, but we liked Game of Thrones. A war game with Game of Thrones Risk, we'll get that. And we just loved it. We spent... A game will go for 4 or 5 hours, and we played it many times. There were many betrayals, alliances made, breaches of trust, arguments, dummy spits, all those sorts of fun things that can happen in a war game. But despite all that, we just had a great time. It means a lot to us. Well, it means a lot. It means a lot to me just because of the memories of that period of time when we were in our early 20s. And we spent hours just beating each other up in Risk, Game of Thrones. The reason that it's better than normal Risk is normal Risk, it's a lot of luck. You throw your armies at another person, and it's the luck of the dice. The dice tell you if you win or lose, and that I get why people don't like normal Risk. But Game of Thrones Risk mitigates some of that by you have money that you can spend on cards and ways to mitigate the randomness of the dice roll. So you have cards that can affect the dice roll. You can have cards that make it more likely that your dice rolls will win. Or, yeah, you can do special abilities to help you strategically on the actual map itself. So it is still rolling dice to see if you win or lose. But the theming and the cards that you get in this and the resources that you spend can help mitigate the dice rolling. So the dice rolling's in there, but it's not as bad randomness-wise. This game means a lot to us. So number 8 is Risk, Game of Thrones. Alright, number 7 is number 7 for now, but it will probably grow in time, and that is Ark Nova. What an incredible game Ark Nova is. It absolutely deserves the hype it gets. It is, I can't remember if I gave this a 9.5 or a 10 out of 10, but it is just such a good game. You build a zoo. It's long, but you build a zoo, and the reason it's just so good is there's just so many different strategies that you can try. There's so much replayability. You can focus on reptiles, you can focus on having a zoo, on filling out your zoo. You have a map and you fill it with enclosures, and you put the animals in the enclosures. So you can focus on filling out your zoo the fastest. You can focus on getting the most reptiles. You can focus on playing the most sponsor cards and using them to get points. You can focus on so you have 2 score tracks. You have an appeal score track. The higher you go up that, you get more money. You have the conservation score track. The higher you go up that is basically points. And when those 2 score tracks meet, that's when the game ends. And alright, my camera battery died, so I had to replace it. And we were talking about Ark Nova, and I was talking about the 2 score tracks. And basically, when they meet, that's when the game ends. So you're racing to have them meet. So you can focus on the strategy, you get the most conservation points or the most appeal. There's so many different strategies that you can try. There's so much different replayability, and the theme's just fun. You're building a zoo. You can put cute little koalas in there. You can put alligators and elephants in there, and all the different animals have different abilities on them. So they're different strengths and weaknesses. There's just so many different cards in that game, in Ark Nova, and so many different strategies that you can try. It's just fun. The theme's good. It's just fun to build a zoo. I dare say it could possibly go up as high as number 1 in a year or 2. But it's down at number 7 for now, just because it is relatively new for me. Got about a year ago. So it just needs a bit more time to build up that nostalgia value sort of in the scoring system. But in terms of how good of a game it is and how excited I am to play it, 10 out of 10, love to play it. And I think I gave it a 10 or a 9.5 for how good of a game it is. So it just needs a bit more time to build up that nostalgia value for the way I've done the ranking. So number 7 is Ark Nova. Alright, my number 6 game of all time is an absolute classic, possibly the most played game in our house. Ticket to Ride. We've got Ticket to Ride Europe, but I played the standard USA version on BGA, of course. And we've got a couple of different maps for Ticket to Ride, but I'm just lumping them all into one count on the ranking, which is 6. We just play this all the time. We got this either second or third after Catan years and years and years ago, and yet it's still our most played game. Why? It is easy to play. You just whip it out, you set it up, you play it for an hour, you're done. It's something that anyone can play. We play a lot with my grandmother. We can teach it to friends that visit that don't really play board games. And even though we've had this for years, it may not have the new shine on it, but in the moment when we're playing it and when we're being competitive at it, it is just as fun today as it was when we got it years and years ago. It's a simple design, but yet it stands the test of time. If a game that we got like 8 years ago is still as enjoyable today as it was back then, it's doing something right. I'll do a little mini ranking. We've got Ticket to Ride Europe, we've got Ticket to Ride Rails and Sails, and the Africa map. So there's 4 different maps in there. Let's do a little mini ranking. Okay, so out of those 4, plus there's the Ticket to Ride USA version as well on BJ that I played. Little mini ranking. In 5th would be Ticket to Ride Heart of Africa. Heart of Africa is, out of the 5, we've got the most brutal Ticket to Ride map. You only have the double routes, so space for 2 people around the edge of Africa. In the middle, it's just single routes only. And it's also, they've also clustered the same colours in the same section. So the red, the orange, and the yellow are all in one corner. The blue, the pink, and the green are all in one section. The white and the black and the grey, the grey. So choose your color. That's all in the same section. So it's super brutal. It's super competitive. You lose, you get blocked out of your routes all the time. We play it, but just because of how brutal it is, it's 5th. 4th would be the world map for me in the Ticket to Ride Rails and Sails box. It's a map of the whole world, and it's fun to have a map of the whole world. The problem is it is so big that you can always score a ton of points in it, so it's hard to have like a competitive edge against each other. Everyone's scoring 8, 9 different tickets because there's just so much space. You have all these 8, 9 boat length routes across the Atlantic and the Pacific. So there's so many big routes and so many ways to get around where you need to go that everyone scores a ton of points, and it's just hard to have that competitive edge. So it's not as intense in the moment of playing. Number 3 for me will be the standard USA map. We don't own it, so it gets a little bit of hit for that. But also just I don't find it as interesting. That's fair. It was the first one. I just don't find it as an interesting map. You can get blocked out a lot, like which is part of it. But yeah, I just don't find it as interesting a map as the other 2. 2nd would be Ticket to Ride Europe. So as a single box, I find that this is the best Ticket to Ride you can buy. Ticket to Ride Europe, just the map is competitive. There's room to move if you need to, but it is competitive. You have that little bit of chance in there of, oh, do I risk doing a tunnel, but might need an extra card than what I've got. Everyone starts with at least one long route, so one of the problems with Ticket to Ride USA, or at least the standard version, I know there's expansions for it that fixes it, but the standard version is your starting hand, you might only get dealt tickets that are worth 7, 8 points. Whereas someone gets 2 of them, they're worth 20, and they can sort of join them together. So you might be out of luck right from the start. I know there's expansions that fix that, but just base game, that's an issue. In Ticket to Ride Europe, you at least get one long one, so there's no imbalance there. And for me, it's just the second best board layout to bring intense competitive games. And for me, the number 1 Ticket to Ride map out of the 5 that I played, I know there's a ton more, but out of the 5 it played is the Great Lakes map in the Ticket to Ride Rails and Sails box. Similar to Ticket to Ride Europe, it is the perfect mix of open and tight in terms of competitiveness. There's room to move if you need to, but it is intense. You do get blocked. You do miss out on places. There's not the tunnel system, but it's just every time we play the Great Lakes map, it is intense. It is close. You do get heartbroken sometimes, but it is, to me, just the most interesting map out of the 5 that I played. So there you go. Number 6 game of all time, Ticket to Ride, and there's a little mini ranking in there for you for the Ticket to Ride maps that I played and I've got. Alright, my 5th board game of all time is a big one for me, and if I did this video a year ago, it probably would have been number 1. It has fallen down to 5th in the space of the year, not because of nostalgia value, not because of how good of a game I think it is. I've just fallen out of love a little bit with it. And that's maybe a discussion for a different video, but I'll go into detail a little bit. But my number 5th board game of all time is Blood on the Clocktower. What I think is the absolute best social deduction game, at least that I played out there. Blood on the Clocktower has taken the world by storm, both in real life and in video content. I discovered it 2019 from the Shut Up and Sit Down review of it, which got a lot of criticism because it was still in Kickstarter. Just 2 weeks before watching that video, I played a variant or a minimal variant of Werewolf for the first time, and it was fun, but just the same complaints as most people have a variant for Werewolf. Once you're eliminated, you can't do anything. There's not a lot of evidence or proof in it. And then 2 weeks later, I watched this review about Blood on the Clocktower, and it fixes all the complaints I had about Werewolf. I was like, wow, that's amazing. So I looked it up, and it was in Kickstarter, or it had successfully passed Kickstarter, but it was taking pre-orders. So I ordered a copy. But I also ordered a copy mainly because when I looked it up, I realised it was made by Australian people. And not only were they Australian, they were in Sydney, and I was living in Sydney at the time. So I looked up, it's not out yet, but are they around? Are they running games? Can I play it? And they were. So I went along, played it. It was amazing. Best experience I've ever had playing games. As I say, some of the best experience I've ever had playing games still. And it's 10 out of 10. There's good team, evil team. Everyone has a different ability. There's lying, betrayal. But there's always mechanical reasons behind everything. Unlike Werewolf, there's always mechanical reasons behind everything. 10 out of 10 meaning in nostalgia. I've made friends from playing this game. Just so many memorable experiences playing this game. So it's 10 out of 10 for nostalgia. I've met the designers, and the designers have been on my Call of Cthulhu. One of the designers been on my Call of Cthulhu podcast, and we're playing a game of Twilight Imperium soon. So I've made friends with people, with the designers themselves, and it's just been a great experience socially for me. 10 and how good of a game is it? 10 out of 10. It is just fallen down a little bit because of falling out of love in the last year alone. It just doesn't excite me as much to play the game itself anymore because of a community reason. I know it's probably a conversation another time, but the community, at no fault of the designers themselves or anyone involved, it's no fault of anyone involved, just how the natural community for this game has progressed to a place that doesn't suit me. And so that's why I can go into more detail about that later in a different video. But my number 5th board game of all time is amazing. Definitely play it. Definitely try it. Blood on the Clocktower. Alright, number 4 on my top games of all time is so high up on this list because I'm desperate to finish it. Will we ever finish it? Probably not. It is The King's Dilemma. What a game. You're on the King's Council, and each player is negotiating with... It's like part choose your own adventure. You're voting for 2 outcomes on a story. Do we give the town a feast? Do we send a bunch of weapons to the north to defend? Do we maybe give the land cheap bread? The citizens cheap bread that they shouldn't probably eat because it's not very healthy. And they might kill them. So many just amazing moments, discussions, negotiations. You are on the council for the king, representing your house, your faction, and you're trying to get people to vote on things to suit your house's agenda. And it is just a great time. We can't finish it because we're struggling to get one player to actually agree to come back and finish it with us. It's just hard to get us all together at the same time. Desperate to finish it. Amazing game. Definitely try it. There's a Queen's Dilemma, the sequel, coming out. Definitely try it if you can. A fantastic time. Number 4 is The King's Dilemma. Alright, number 3, my top 3, my third board game of all time is Battlestar Galactica, the board game. As I say with the others in this section of the video, what a game. It is a long game. Battlestar Galactica is a hidden traitor game. You're on the Battlestar Galactica fighting. I've never actually seen Battlestar Galactica, the show or the movie, whatever it is. I've never seen it, but the game's amazing. The goal is to do enough jumps through space to get to the end without dying. But there's a hidden traitor or 2 hidden traitors. And you vote, or you're using different colored cards to pass tests. So, there's a mechanical problem. We need these cards to pass the test. We're starving. We need these cards to pass this test. And the traitor's job is to stuff it up, but without making it obvious that they're the traitor, for long enough that they can ruin the game, but not be shoved in the brig. So if the traitor can keep it quiet that they're the traitor for long enough and just throw in curveballs in here and there to make it harder for the good team to win for long enough, then they have a good chance of winning. And I mean a very good chance of winning. Because my one criticism for this game is that it is too hard for the good team to win. We've played it, I reckon, 10 times. It's a long game. 4 or 5 hours each. We've played it 10 times, and the traitor has won, or the traitors have won every single time. It is hard to win as the good team, just because the good team are always nervous that someone else is lying to them. The traitors don't need to worry about that. So the good team are going to stuff up regardless of what the traitors do at some point. The traitors don't need to worry about stuffing up. They just need to make it as hard for the good team to win as possible. And based on the mechanics of the game, it is very, very hard for the good team to make it to the end and win. I've looked it up online. People argue, well, you need to play 20 games of it and then it gets balanced, which I think is a bit of an issue. The games go for 5 hours long each. If you need to play a game for 100 hours before it gets balanced, that's a problem with the game, not the players. Don't blame the players. But anyway, despite that, amazing game. If people want to play it, I'll 10 hours 10 times say yes, let's do it. No matter how unbalanced it is, it's just so much fun. So I don't have it. Battlestar Galactica is my number 3 board game of all time. I don't own it, but there you go. Alright, number 2. We're getting down to it, aren't we? Number 2 board game of all time is Pandemic Legacy Season 1. And we haven't played this for 7 years, but is up here just because of the effect. It was so groundbreaking for me and my family. Like, at the time, we'd only played, in this new era, we'd only played Catan, Base Pandemic, Ticket to Ride, and maybe something else? I can't remember. But this was very new in our new board game journey. And even for people that were into board games a lot and had played a lot of board games, this was still groundbreaking. But for us, to have a game that changed as you played, based on how you played, how you did one game affected the board and the mechanics and the games for the rest of the game, that was like groundbreaking and monumental. Like, oh my goodness, this is what board games can be. As I say, this was our first experience of getting to open boxes, peel off stickers, put stickers on a board, rip up cards. We didn't rip up the cards because it hurt too much to do that. But this was our first experience doing a Legacy game, and it was a monumental change in what games can be for us. So absolute 10 out, and we loved it. We've finished it. So 10 out of 10 nostalgia value, 10 out of 10 game. Like, it's just, we finished it 7 years ago. So it's like, there's going to be a very slow decline as the more in the distant memory this game becomes, the probably more it will drop. But I have made an effort to keep it high on the list because that's where it deserves to be. Pandemic Legacy Season 1. Alright, this is it. Liam's #1 game of all time. And for those of you in the know about board games, or know lots of board games, or know most board games, this one might surprise you a bit. Because it doesn't get much hype at all. And I think I know why. We'll reveal it and then we'll talk about why. My #1 board game of all time is a game called Unfair. First of all, fantastic artwork. Probably my favourite artwork of any of the board games I've got. So in Unfair, you're building a theme park. And it's called Unfair because there are mechanics in the game that can hurt your progress in developing your theme park, whether directly hurting another player or just randomly affect a random card popping up that hurts you or everyone else. So it's not necessarily just player-to-player unfair. There's game-generated unfairness in it. But you're building a theme park, and it is an amazing game. There's a couple of expansions out for it now. It's modular, so there's in the base game there's 6 different themes. There's jungle, pirates, robots, vampires, gangsters. I forget them all, but I can't list them off all off the top of my head. And then the expansions brought dinosaurs, aliens, western, B-movie, kaiju, ocean. Like, there's so many different decks that you can throw into this game to make it replayable. So many different combinations. Your goal is to build attractions in your theme park, staff, upgrades to match blueprints, to fulfill objectives, to get points, and whoever has the most points wins. There's just so much replayability in this. We as a group love the theme. We don't get sick of it. It's just a fun theme, colourful cards, great artwork. The downside for it, why people don't like it or think it's like a 7 out of 10 game on the internet I've seen, is because of how unfair it is. It's literally in the name of the game. But you can just have bad luck. So you can be spending the whole game building up your theme park, and in the very last round, a card pops up that completely derails your game. And for a game to have that in it, I can see why it doesn't get hype. I can see why it's just an average game for most board game reviewers or board game channels out there. I can see why, if you only play it once or twice. But because we love it, and we've played it, 50 plus times now, if you get a game where that happens to you, it's such a blip in the radar. Like, the luck comes around you eventually. It hurts you sometimes. It helps you sometimes. If you play this game enough, which we do, that unfairness luck factor, it doesn't matter anymore. Like, I had bad luck this one game. We'll play it again, and I might get good luck. And you play it enough, then like that unfairness luck factor goes away. I can see why it is not highly graded by any board game review channel or anything out there, because so many of those people play hundreds of games a year. They own hundreds of games. In their whole lifespan, they've played thousands of different games. They're generally not playing games new games multiple times. So if they're only playing this once or twice, and they have a game where the bad luck happens to them, I can see why they don't like it. I can see why it's not an amazing game for them. But for us, we play it a lot, so we don't really care about that unfair luck factor. And for us, it's just a great theme park building game with great themes, great cards, fun mechanics, great replayability, and it's just a joy for us. So, might be a 7 out of 10 game for most people, but I promise you, if you play it enough to get past that, I was unlucky this time, it's a crap game. If you play it enough, the luck is shared out. The luck is spread around. It is a fantastic game. And so Unfair is my #1 out of my only 58 board games of all time. Definitely give it a go. Unfair is my #1. And that's it. We've hit #1. Again, I've played other games once or twice here and there, but these are the ones worthy that made sense to put into a ranking list. So thank you for joining me. My name's Liam. There'll be more content on this channel. There will be gameplay footage of me playing BGA. There'll be puzzle content. There'll be some more in-depth videos about particular games themselves. Who knows what else we'll do. So thank you for joining me. My name's Liam. If you're in Australia, come along to our puzzle races or our board game tournaments. The National Board Game League is starting up in 2024. There'll be a link in the description to check for the website and information to check all that out. So if you love puzzles, come to a puzzle race. If you love board games, come to a board game tournament. Or just subscribe and check out this channel. My name's Liam. Thank you for watching.